So, what if I told you that just a little while ago, I did something completely irrational? I was standing in a shop here in New York holding a box of artisanal chocolates. And I'm not going to tell you how much they cost because they're more than chocolate should cost, but they were beautiful. Oh my God. And the flavors were so unique. Kumquat and some kind of Havana heat, and one was called Ecstasy. I was like, "Oh my gosh, dark chocolate, milk chocolate. Oh my God." And on the little card, it said that these were sustainably sourced, and I knew that I did not need them, and I knew that nobody I knew was expecting them, and it was just the middle of the week. And guess what? I bought them anyway. I drove home, put them on the table, and I thought about it, and knowing that I am basically surrendering all processed sugars, I went next door to the fellow in my hall who I know has a limited budget and he's much older, and I gave them to him. I gave them away. I felt so fun, and he was so surprised. And I remember being like this most of my life. I remember a time of taking a brownie to a boyfriend unexpectedly at his place of work. I remember doing something for my partner now who was unexpectedly wanting to do something, and I sent him something that he wasn't expecting as well. And you know what? I realized this is really something that is not silly. It's not silly. And frankly, I have learned because I'm a health psychologist that there is some great research about what actually keeps people well as they get older, more than sleep, more than movement, more than our muscle tone, more than blood pressure. And it's really not glamorous, but it has great evidence. And that is the silly person who went and bought expensive chocolates and gave them to someone I barely know in the hall. So today I want to make an argument that may surprise you. And I know that there's a lot of evidence behind it, and that might surprise you too. That spontaneous, slightly ridiculous, faintly embarrassing gestures like a day trip to the waterfall you cannot really justify, or this good chocolate, or writing a hand note to someone and walking over instead of giving them a text, and doing some other little unexpected things for your partner, for your friends, for neighbors, for someone you don't know. Like they say, pay it forward. These are health behaviors. They help improve our well being. So this is MC. I'm Mary Catherine George of Healthy by George. I come here each week to talk about all things aging and health and wellness so that we can be the very best version of who we are well into our 80s and 90s. So please subscribe, join me here each week, and let's figure out ways that we can unexpectedly do irrational things and blame it on being healthy. Okay? Push the like button, share. I would just love it if you would subscribe and support me here. So let's start with the day trip. One day you just suddenly decide you're going to call in sick on a Thursday and you're going to pack a lunch and you're going to drive to somewhere that you've wanted to go to with no reason and no purpose other than to just maybe eat outside under a tree and watch a waterfall. There is a whole line of research in relationship psychology built on this exact belief. It comes out of the work that's known by Arthur and Elaine Aron, and it's called self-expansion theory. That finding over and over is this: when couples do things that are a little novel and a little bit exciting and unexpected, as opposed to things that are just familiar and pleasant, they report that there's more closeness, less boredom, higher satisfaction, and an improvement in their relationship. And it doesn't have to be a partner. It just could be a good friend. And it's not because of the waterfall or the location but it's all because of the newness of doing something unexpected. And that this theory is that novelty recreates the feeling of expansion that you had maybe in the early part of getting to know someone, a partner, a friend, when you're still discovering more about each other and not knowing everything that you know now, and that there's new information and new feelings and not just this old familiarity. And isn't it nice to have a novel experience, even if it's a bad one? I remember one with my husband that was a really bad one. We had chosen this place unexpectedly to go down to the Jersey Shore. And oh my God, it had the loudest air conditioner in that hotel room that I've ever heard in my life. I still can't forget it to this day. It was a shared experience. It was novel in that we couldn't go to sleep because the air conditioner was so loud. But you have something now that you've both shared, and it's really something unique that you can always look back on. And in the moment, it may be very frustrating and puzzling, but you can laugh about it. And I also want to tell you the other half of this kind of idea of research, because it connects directly to what I talk about here on this channel, is that it helps us with our sexuality and it helps us with aging or healthy aging. This novelty that we link to a higher desire, it's unpredictable, and it's much more satisfying, even if you're just being close with each other. It doesn't have to have completely making love, but you can just have closeness. So whether it's a drive to the waterfall or some other adjacent part that you've never explored, it's going to be all beneficial, because on top of this is this thing that we call awe. That's AWE. It's that feeling you get in the presence of something expansive, vast, like a canyon or the night sky or an incredible piece of music or blooming flowers in front of you that are just awe-inspiring, that you did not expect. There is incredible research by Dacher Keltner and his group at Berkeley that has spent years on it. And this psychological finding around this idea of having awe experiences has shown that it increases the vagal tone of our nervous system. And that's immense because we are stressing ourselves all the time and there's high cortisol, and it helps anything we can help our vagal tone. So reducing that sympathetic nervous system activation, lowering our levels of inflammation as measured by the blood level called interleukin 6. So it's actually measurable by testing your blood. How about that? And I think this is where to be very direct with you, because that's what I try and do here on this channel, where we're talking about research and these ideas about things we do in our behavior, that the inflammation finding comes from a very kind of cross-sectional of about 94 undergraduates. So they were younger people. And that awe, or this idea of inspirational, breathtaking feeling, was they measured it by asking these people how often they felt it. And I say that maybe it's not a great deal of proof, but it has some proof behind it. But there's something even better. 60 older adults randomly assigned to walking once a week and simply being told to pay attention what was big and new around them, compared to people taking the same walk without any instructions. They reported, the people who were given instructions, they reported more positive emotions and less distress over the 8 weeks that they did this. There's also a diary study of 269 adults across 22 days, finding that on the days where they felt more awe, people reported feeling less stressed and having fewer physical complaints. So there's something about that, right? It's not just this idea about going to see a waterfall or looking what's around you. It's somehow paying attention. So, why is it that my idea of buying some chocolates and unexpectedly giving it to someone has a place in what we call the happiness research? And there's a whole group of people who do they study this concept of happiness and how we can get more satisfaction out of our experiences in our lives that go beyond perhaps the material process. Maybe it's the experience of sharing the chocolates with the friend that made me feel a sense of happiness, or it's that sharing going to a movie or concert where there's an experience that you share that is probably more awe inspiring. And this concept of creating more happiness is very tangible in the research, and that basically we can help ourselves to look for it more conscientiously. Maybe we don't take a look at what's around us often enough. And when we are perhaps booking something for ourselves out in the future, it doesn't have that same kind of irrational, intense energy behind it. I think that's what gives me great pleasure. Now, granted, it was unexpected for me to do this and it was beyond my budget. And I know sometimes we do these things, except that the idea of sharing this chocolate with this neighbor, it was something that made me feel uniquely different than I've been feeling. And I think that's where we can start to find ways to share this with people unexpectedly. We can look for opportunities versus complaining and being frustrated. We can look for opportunities to do something about sharing and giving. This whole idea of spending money on other people has a reliable association with helping us with our well being. And the effect appears larger when the money goes to someone who you know and is close to you, or the gift goes to someone that you know and is close to you. So that's why we need to know that it's important to invest these kind of unexpected, irrational actions to the people that maybe sometimes we don't get to choose more often how we tell them how much we love them. Maybe the nephews and nieces that you aren't that close to, you can send something unexpectedly to them. In a randomized experiment with 45 adults aged 61 to 80, performing acts of kindness was tested. And as a counterweight to that was internalized negative aging stereotypes. And this was a very interesting small study. And while it's not clear about its purpose, but it points at something that I think is very well established. How do you see yourself as an aging person and how you actually age? So that there's a connection between how we see ourselves and how we are actually aging. So sometimes doing generous things appears to benefit our self picture of ourselves and that it improves our perception of our aging selves. Now, I think that we can do this in many ways. Showing kindness, the evidence is there, is that it benefits you. This idea of gratitude and showing gratitude is something that we know is a benefit, and that we've got all kinds of gratitude journals, and this helps our health and our wellness. We sleep better. We have partners that we feel better about. And I think that's the key, is that when we can express gratitude in each other's presence in our lives in an intentional or unexpected way, the benefit is humongous. It really does truly expand our sense of who we are as an aging adult. And I think we need to do more things about these acts of kindness. It's not just about gratitude. We can be grateful about all kinds of things living in the United States, but it's more about expressing ourselves in a way of kindness that may have nothing to do with us, but it has something to do entirely with another person, a generous gesture. And I'm going to have more to say about kindness in the future because I've developed a kindness journal. Because I truly believe that we need to find ways to do irrational, unexpected things for our own self of kindness and irrational, unexpected things for other people. I believe that this gives us a deep feeling of appreciation. It gives us a deep feeling of abundance, of this beautifulness of being able to give away energy when it's unexpected. And people who do these types of things for their partners, for their friends, for their neighbors, there's this energy of gratitude and kindness that is going to be, I think, reverberating through our lives. It definitely shakes up our self-perception. There's another study that I think that's also very interesting is there was a qualitative study, and qualitative studies look at people's language and how they talk about their life and their experiences. They did a study of 43 older couples that sometimes questions just keep things simple and they don't really provide the depth of what it is that we mean by gratitude, and sometimes things that are left unsaid. The note they would leave on a windshield, the coffee already made, the particular chocolate they like, these count and have been systematically undermeasured. But if you've been quietly doing them for 40 years without ever saying those words, the research is acknowledging the power behind this type of interaction with your partner, with your friends, with your family. That these gestures of unexpected, maybe irrational behavior, that it has a deep and very beneficial presence in our health and well-being. So really start looking for those opportunities where you can make an irrational decision or gesture. To drive 2 hours somewhere to look at the sky, or go somewhere to look where the stars and there's not all the bright lights. Pay 10 times what you would normally pay for some chocolate. Write something on some paper that has a lavender smell and has flowers printed all of it, and carry it to someone across town. Every one of these actions gives you more connectedness to the gesture. And your effort, while expensive, it is truly giving both you and the recipient a benefit that you cannot measure truly. This benefit of a sense of love, caring, wellness, connectedness. We're missing more of that in our lives than ever before because of the internet and our phones. And that now is the time, and we can use our health as an argument that we have to include these types of activities. So what are 4 things you can actually do? Schedule something, and don't apologize for scheduling something unexpected with your partner or a friend. Pick a sudden restaurant that you would never even think of going. Choose a hiking or a walk somewhere where there's this expansive beauty. Or, for example, I think there's always those beautiful cherry blossoms that happen every spring. Or maybe there's a field of sunflowers, or maybe there's a perfume shop that you can go and smell and make your own perfumes. Make it happen. Go out. Do it unexpectedly. Maybe we all put together a little bank of money that we set aside for our irrational decisions to take and do something that has nothing other than the pleasure of participating it with your loved one or a friend or someone you don't know. I want to just reflect back on what made me go and buy these chocolates, and that I know that the money is never coming back, and the gesture I had, you know what? It probably, I never will really feel the impact of what it did for the other person. But I know for me, the impact it gave me, the excitement, the expectedness, the pleasure of knowing that they were going to receive it, and yet I'm not there to see them open the package or try the chocolate. It made me feel truly expansive and recognize that these are actions we need to do more often in our life. So please think of ways to be more irrational and do things unexpectedly for the loved ones and for yourself. Do things unexpectedly. I can't confess what I do unexpectedly for myself. I think I'll be too embarrassed, but that's okay. Maybe I'll reveal it next time. So please remember, we have this one precious life. Let's live it to the fullest. I'm MC. This is Healthy by George. Please come and join me here each week. Subscribe and share. I would love to see you here and share with me what you did irrationally and unexpected. What did you purchase? Did you go and purchase some barbecue, or did you go and purchase a bouquet of flowers that was extraordinarily expensive? We never know how long we have to live on this life in the earth and our partners and friends. So why not do things sometimes a little irrationally and unexpected? Be well. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. So thank you so much for joining me at Healthy by George. I hope you found the information inspiring and that it encourages you on your wellness journey. Because remember, your body, your well-being are a most precious gift, and every tiny action taken daily can make a huge difference. I hope the information here is educational purposes and is not meant to replace your medical care. See your doctor and talk about what works for you. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me continuing creating content that inspires and empowers you to live your best life. Goodbye for now, and join me again at the next Healthy by George.